Time for the 30-second board. We're going to hit two of my favorite topics. A, that math of what if Sexton wins 5 straight and Webb finishes second every time, which doesn't happen. And second is predicting mud races early in the week because you looked at the weather report. Okay, Foxborough was bad. But Philadelphia is more what I expect, which is huge rain all weekend, especially Friday, and then the SMX track crew saves the day with a really raceable track on Saturday.
Yeah, I went out there early Saturday morning, and I just wanted to see how are they doing this? What is the magic that they're pulling off and the efforts they're going to, everything from pumps and generators to pushing dirt around strategically so that they can drag it back after the bottom layer has dried. This is not just a fly-by-night maneuver like this. There's a lot of strategy and a lot of experience over the years that is able to deliver us a very raceable track in the afternoon on NBC. So as you mentioned, everybody from the SMX track crew to the flaggers on site dragging bikes out of the mud, they all deserve a huge round of applause for giving us this fantastic product that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, and doing it back-to-back weekends because they've been dodging it and fighting it everywhere, not just Foxborough. And speaking of back-to-back, Cole Davies is a back-to-back winner in 250 West. They didn't race Foxborough, but he won Seattle, and now he wins a showdown, and he was maybe 6th off the start, 4th as the battle started to materialize. He went past maybe the best riders of both divisions to win. It's only his 7th pro start. This is unbelievable.
It is. You said it. It's so hard to fathom how he's gotten this good this fast. And case in point, leading up to the filming of this episode, I went back. I wanted to see in 2024, could I see this coming? Were there signs that he was going to be this good? And I can honestly say no. I watched 2 different rounds from 2024, and the last round in Salt Lake City, I still saw nothing that resembled this Cole Davies. Now, he switched teams, he switched motorcycles. You have to think that being around all of those, monster Yamaha Star Racing riders every day has really helped him improve. But I'm just telling you, these are 2 different humans riding the motorcycle. It's like he's become a shapeshifter now, and whoever this Cole Davies is was not that person. So kudos to everybody around him, most, of course, him as well, because this has been the biggest metamorphosis and improvement that I would arguably say I've ever seen. It is that stark of a difference from 2024 to 2025.
Yes, his technique is next level, but you would think you saw that at age 13 or 15 or something like that. This happened in a year. I also think what helps him is we've gotten to know him better as a personality. I don't think he's bothered by any of the hype or nerves or big names on the gate. He seems immune to that. And when you're 17 and a rookie, that must help as well. But even the pressures of the 250 class are nothing like what Chase Sexton and Cooper Webb are going to be going through now. This is the 4th quarter. This is the playoffs essentially in Supercross where they're so close. And you mentioned it. If Sexton wins out, he wins the title no matter what Webb does. That's a tall order, though, with that kind of pressure and a guy like Webb chasing.
It is, and I think you start to look at it race by race. Now, I think that the last 2 racetracks, Denver and Salt Lake, favor Chase Sexton's skill set. You're going to have to put the whoops. You really can't go inside in the corners because the base dirt is too hard. There's not enough traction to really use the insides. Those things work for Chase Sexton's favor, and you look at how good he has been at Salt Lake City over the years. That plays out. I think that these next 2 are critically important for Cooper Webb to either keep the status quo, keep it at 12 points or around there. He cannot let Chase Sexton dig into that gap and make it really tight into the last 2 where Sexton likely has a track advantage. So yes, there's 4 rounds. Yes, we can look at the 12 points, but I really think you have to start diving deeper into each round and see where each rider has an advantage and what that's going to look like.
Think about this with Cooper Webb, JT. If he beats Sexton 1 time, suddenly now the math really starts to tilt in his direction. You look at the 450 Supercross point standings here. So with such an, I don't want to use the word opportunist because some of Webb's buddies like Phil Nicoletti hate that we use that word, but he does seem to know when the time is right to ride best. And if he can just beat Sexton once, that really starts to tilt things.
It does, and I think there's a little bit more to it. I really think that Webb is in this mindset of all I really have to do is keep the status quo. And that means just keep the points in this yo-yo positioning. And I'll go all the way back to the Indianapolis round, which seems like forever ago, but Webb had a 15-point lead. and then it went to 8, and then it went to 11, and then it went back to 15, and now we're back to 12. I think Webb's comfortable in that range. You know, what he doesn't want it to do is get down into the 7, 6, 5, 4 numbers where something can really change in one round. As long as he's keeping this range of 11 to 15, which he will need to beat Chase Sexton this weekend to do that, I think that's the magic. That's where he wants to stay, where the clock starts to really work against Chase Sexton. So Sexton's looking at it, not only do I have to beat Coop, I also have to beat this ticking clock that we're running out of rounds to really make up a lot of points. So it's starting to swing in Webb's favor in that regard.
Yeah, and you also have to factor in who could maybe get between them and take some points away. That's what really hurt Webb back at Birmingham, where he only finished 4th. Ken Roczen is still a factor. Now, he's beat up from head to toe, almost literally, ankle and shoulder. In the end, he did not finish between Sexton and Webb in Philadelphia, but even that little piece where they were trying to get around him and Sexton got around quickly and pulled a little gap, Roczen is an example of someone who might still be a factor here for those top 2.
Yeah, and I think Roczen can. There's no question about that. He has the talent. The problem is these injuries are really nagging him. And you can see him start to lose strength. You know, when you're dealing with not only a shoulder injury, but also an ankle injury, you're compromising, you're compensating all the way around the racetrack. And those other body parts start to get more fatigued more quickly. You could see it at Seattle. He looked phenomenal. He twisted his ankle again. He had to slow down. This weekend, I would argue if it was earlier in the season, Ken Roczen would have been long gone. He would have won that main event this past weekend. So that's what he's up against, and it doesn't sound like the ankle is just going to magically heal itself. So I wonder if he'll be able to sustain a level to beat those two. But I'll throw one name in there. I think AP can. Aaron Plessinger has shown the form that he could get in between those guys, and I would argue if he hadn't gone down in that first corner this weekend, he would have been a factor. I don't know where, but he would have been a factor and will likely down the stretch. We'll see what that matters, but you're always thinking about who can get in the way. Could it be Justin Cooper? Could it be Aaron Plessinger? Could it be Ken Roczen? But AP is going to be a name that matters over the last 4.
This is my favorite topic in Supercross right now, the 250 East Division points. So this is the RJ Hampshire roller coaster, which I got to say, when I don't go to the races, my son and I love watching every lap of Hampshire because you never know what you're going to get. He has a race where he crashes in the first turn, thinks he re-breaks his wrist, said he was struggling, couldn't get out of his own way, riding horribly, had nothing. That's what he said after the race. And he still finished 3rd and made up points on Hamaker and Vial and everyone else he's trying to beat for this championship. This is nutty how off everyone has been, which is leading to this level of parity.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And when I go to an amusement park, I typically can't ride the rides. I'm too short. But not Monster Energy Supercross. I get to experience the RJ Hampshire ride every single weekend. I'm telling you, this guy never fails to deliver. Even this past weekend in Philadelphia, the first main event, he goes down and we're wondering what that points are going to look like. And then he whole shots the restart and everything changes again and he leaves there with a share of the lead. So you never know what you're going to get from RJ Hampshire other than excellence and chaos all wrapped into one. And there's so many stories, but man, this 250 East where we kind of didn't know, it felt like Vial was slipping away a little bit. This has turned out to be the story of 2025 so far, in my opinion.
3 rounds to go, 3 points separating the top 3. That is all-time pressure. It's going to be so fun this weekend in New Jersey. Now, who won't be there racing is Hayden Deegan, who is again reestablishing and pulling away in points in 250 West. He's in the driver's seat for that title. Got to hang out in the New Jersey, New York area the previous weekend doing some really cool media stuff. But Deegan's style is impressing an unlikely candidate. Jeffrey Hurlings, the multi-time motocross MXGP world champion, the Dutchman. This is from a gate drop after the last MXGP race over the weekend. He had some interesting things to say watching Hayden Deegan from afar.
I had the same attitude when I was 18. I didn't care about anything. And he's the same, and he was winning. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. I watch his vlogs. I rarely watch any vlogs, but the Danger Boy ones I really like, and they're also very professional. So I always like it, and I'm a massive fan of him. I think he's not like super talented as Jet Lawrence. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, he's super talented still, but not like, Jet. But he works so hard, and he is so mentally strong. So him being talented, super strong mentally, and fast, and have so much desire to win. I think that's why he's that good.
Those are some wise words there from the Bullet, who was pretty cocky back in his teenage days. I'm just impressed at how closely they follow what's going on in the stadiums over here.
Yeah, two things. And yes, you're right. They watch SMX really closely, and why wouldn't you? The racing is fantastic. But I think that Jeffrey Hurling sees a lot of himself in Hayden Deegan. Same attitude, talent. Like they want to grab headlines by what they said. And I think they're mirror images of each other just across the Atlantic from each other. So I think Hurlings can appreciate that. And the second piece of that, he talked about how naturally talented Jet Lawrence is. I don't think that's necessarily the case for Hayden Deegan. And these are all relative terms. The average Joe walking down the street, yes, Hayden Deegan is extremely talented. But comparing them to Jet Lawrence, they go about it differently. Hayden has to work very, very hard at this. And you've seen him through his Monster Energy Supercross struggles. It doesn't come easy. He makes mistakes. He's had to fight through traffic. Starts haven't been what he wanted. That's what I think Jeffrey Hurlings appreciates, is that he's just bulldogging his way to the front, whether he's 25th on the first lap of a pro motocross race or he crashes halfway through a Supercross main event. He is finding a way to overcome all of that adversity, and I think Jeffrey appreciates that.
And 2 races to go for Deegan. Might get that elusive 250 Supercross championship as he leads the West standings. Hey, want to show a shout out to this guy, Joey Savacci. Gets 5th in Philadelphia, had missed a couple races with injury, comes back for the mud race in Foxborough, and does not make the main event. This is long awaited. It might seem crazy for a rider who didn't make the main one week to finish 5th in the 450 main the next. But I think we both know, JT, the talent of Joey Savacci is top 5 guy. On the Quad Lock Honda, he can do this. It just doesn't happen as often as maybe it should.
Yeah, the ability is not the problem. And remember, this guy was 100 yards from being a 250 Supercross champion, with that 2017 Zach Osborne whole fiasco. This guy's always been capable of racing near the front, but crashes, let's go back to that horrific crash he had a month ago. Those things add up. And if you cannot consistently build your base and year over year over year continue to get better and better, it's really hard to keep up with the very front. The guys like Tomac and Sextons and Jet Lawrence is like, those guys have this innate ability to continue to get better. And if you're not getting better, you're by default falling behind. So that is the ask for all of these riders, is to chase them down through injuries and through setbacks. But I think this weekend was a great reminder of what Joey Savacci is capable of. And I got to see it firsthand in Australia this past fall. That guy's an unbelievable rider. And I left Australia thinking this guy could be a top 5 guy week in and week out if he could bring that. And this was that. It's just, can he ever get to where he's doing it on a week in, week out basis without the big step back?
And credit to Yuriv Konski, the owner there at Quad Lock Honda. Remember, that team grabbed the podium in the mud of Foxborough with Shane McElrath. So they're taking it to the factory teams. They have some help, some support, some budget. They're not full privateer, but they're not even close to what the full factories have. It's impressive when they pull off those rides, which is the perfect transition into the SMX playoff bubble. Now, there's an entire 11-round run of pro motocross before the SMX playoffs begin, but there are riders like Savacci and McElrath who want to be in because there's so much money and prestige on the line in those playoffs. Here's what it looks like right now. Savacci's actually in pretty good standing in 14th, but a couple names tend to stick out there that are probably going to rocket forward when the motocross campaign begins.
Yeah, it sounds crazy that we're already thinking about September, but that's the reality we live in, especially for these riders on the bubble, these privateer riders that, it's a big difference maker in their year to get into these main events and be a part of this playoff run. So they're starting to look at it. You can hear rumblings about, oh man, my positioning, I got to get more points, which was never a thing before. But yeah, we're starting to get into that time. And as we careen towards pro motocross, that narrative is only going to pick up.
Yeah, one rider to look at you saw on that bubble list is Jerry Robin. He's just as good outdoors as in Supercross. Does have a tendency to throw it away at times, but some of these privateer guys are Supercross specialists, so to speak. I think Jerry is the type of privateer when we talk about someone that can make it in, be with the best of the best, make the money, be part of the prestigious show. That's going to be someone to watch as the summer unfolds.
Yeah, throw Freddie Noren into that group as well there, Weege.
Yeah, good point. Freddie's made it previous years. Now, before we end the 30 board, JT, this was your idea. We have synchronized swimming here in the mud. Can we do a compare contrast with the goods and bads of these races lately?
Well, how can three things be so similar, but the context be so different? That's where we're kind of at with this. You know, the celebration jump in the mud. I think Aaron Plessinger kind of coined that move. Chance Hymas wanted to do it. And there, AP was like, no, I'm also going to do it in Foxborough. And then I don't know if Deegan felt like he missed out, or he felt like it was a good luck charm, or maybe he was just a little overheated and said, I need to cool down. But Hayden Deegan did his best slide into the Philadelphia Eagles whoop section there. But that's what these races have been. And, you know, we let off the show talking about the SMX track crew. How do they get these tracks so raceable? Well, part of that is pushing water into areas that we don't have to race on. And Hayden Deegan found exactly where they were pushing that water.
As for watching it, this is another day race, a live NBC window. You can watch the racing at 3 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. Race day live qualifying coverage begins at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. And for you international fans out there, we're going to give you a test ride of the SMX Video Pass. This is available in about 150 plus countries outside the United States. Go to supermotocross.tv, and they'll let you try it for a week so you can see what it would be like to watch a race live. Here in the United States, that happens on Peacock. But tell your friends, or maybe you're someone that just watches the highlights and wants to see the real deal. This is your chance to do it. supermotocross.tv outside the United States. As for us, we're both headed there. You know, we can't rule out the weather. It is another open air stadium, and it is in the Northeast, and it is the springtime. Ask us how we know. We've just dealt with this. But I'm just really looking for, to me, the pressure is just going to keep rising with each round, especially in that 250 East division. And a lot of times that leads to more surprises and more chaos.
Yeah, it just feels like we're wound up tight. And eventually, when you're wound up this tight, something's going to break, right? The points are going to swing wildly one way or another. They typically do. But we're going to be there to witness, and everybody that tunes in on whether it's Peacock or NBC, you're going to get to see it as well.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.